Congress. 3 years ago, I left America in Greece to bury my husband, Ninoy Aquino. I thought I had left it also to lay to rest his restless dream of Philippine freedom. Today, I have returned as the President of a free people.
Hi everyone, this is Pauline Choyti Ibarra and I will be doing the reaction video about President Corazon C. Aquino during the U.S. Congress. Maria Corazon Cory Sumulong Conchuangco Aquino was a Filipino politician who served as the 11th President of the Philippines from 1986 to 1992. Corazon C. Aquino gave a speech to the United States Congress on September 1986. She called on America to help our country in maintaining the freedom. Her speech was to connect Ninoy's struggles with that of the whole nation, all the while interlinking their family's history with the fate of the entire country. President Aquino says that the new constitution not only embodies the ideas of democracy, but also the dreams that the Filipino people aspire for as a nation. After all, the Philippines is widely perceived as a dysfunctional democracy, and the events of 1986 makes the idea of people power, the use of peaceful protests to topple the government. Elected or not, one of Cory Aquino's major legacies. Indeed, it remains, for better or for worse, the default template for bringing about political and regime change in the Philippines. It is true, you cannot eat the freedom, and you cannot power machinery with democracy. But then, neither can politician prisoners turn on the light in the cells of a dictatorship. Thank you.
As we finish watching the speech of our former President Corazon Aquino during the United States Congress, I was amazed with her bravery. Despite of all the things she experienced, she still managed to speak in front of many intellectual leaders to ask for financial support for the recovery of our country's economy. Also, she mentioned about the suffering and the death of her husband, and that makes me more amazed of how strong she is. Because instead of being sad, she still managed to appeal and continue fighting for Philippines democracy. During Marcos administration, many Filipinos experienced hardships, and that's the time she planned to run for election, but unfortunately, she didn't win. Besides, she didn't give up. As the time that she was challenged to join the snap election, she accepted, and luckily, she wins. And that's the beginning of a new responsible government. She successfully restored the Philippines democracy after a long dictatorship of Ferdinand Marcos. See, she really did everything for us to commit freedom. And I am proud and blessed to have a leader just like her. A strong and a brave woman that did everything for the sake of her people. Indeed, she really deserved to be called the mother of Asian democracy.
Wow, just wow. The speech of former President Cory Aquino is very powerful, just like she is. And I came to realize that Cory Aquino is not just an ordinary woman, but a phenomenal one. Imagine standing there in front of thousands of intellectual people, delivering her speech to lodge an appeal to the U.S. Congress to ask financial aid in rebuilding Philippine economy. See, she just shows to us how brave woman she is. just like how she faced the most painful day of her life, the death of her husband, Ninoy Aquino. But what makes me more proud is that the death of her husband doesn't cause her the downfall. Rather, it fueled her determination to fight for our country's freedom. So she participated in the 1984 presidential elections but failed to win. But it doesn't stop her to fight for our country's freedom. Since Marcos initiated the snap election, people choose Cory to fight Marcos. Facts. Marcos and Aquino's our greatest political rivalry. So what happened next paid off the hard work of Cory Aquino. She succeeded to snatch the power to Marcos and restores Philippine democracy. Truly, she stands on what she said that she will not betray the cause of peace which she came to power. As I watched this video, I was feeling so proud that once upon a time, we had a leader who had done so much in our country. Truly, she deserved to be called as the best icon of democracy.
First, I will point out some of the highlights of the speech of our former President Corazon Aquino before the United States Congress. So she described her experience of how her husband was slain, wherein she asked empathy from the audience. She criticizes anti-Marcos propaganda in her address, claiming that Marcos was a dictator who stomped on Philippines' democracy. Also, a portion of her speech is looking for assistance or a way out of such devastation committed by her successor. She was also indicating that the United States should help the Philippines reconstruct its democracy. One thing I'd say about our former President Corazon Aquino's address is that it was well done. Although it may be true, but it does not depict the entire events of what is really happening in our country during those times. And as a student who is not present during those time of events that was mentioned in her speech, I can't say that everything is true or correct because it needs to be examined and analyzed hypothetically. Thank you.
Former Philippine President Corazon C. Aquino called on America to assist our country in sustaining its freedom in a speech to the United States Congress. Cory Aquino's speech began and ended with numerous references to her husband, former Senator Ninoy Aquino, whom the Filipino country had designated as the anti-Marcos poster boy. Her speech was intended to relate Ninoy's suffering with that of the entire country while also connecting their family's history and the country's fate. Her presence in the room was justified in front of the United States. On the one hand, Congress used symbolic phrases and metaphorical language alluding to her relationship with the late Ninoy Aquino, and on the other fulfilling her instruction to the Filipino people. She was successful in her analysis of the origins and outcomes of the martial law. President Cory Aquino also shared her experiences and emotions of losing a loving husband and a good parent to her family. The notion that democracy and freedom were more important to the Filipinos than their socioeconomic status excites me much. The people had strong ideals and beliefs that oppressors would not be allowed to exploit their rights and advantages as country residents. The power of a nonviolent demonstration is also fulfilling and motivating, which motivates me to protect the value and democracy that I currently enjoy.
The part of speech of former President Corazon C. Aquino that caught my attention is when she says, "For the nation, Ninoy became the pleasing sacrifice that answered their prayer for freedom." So, this part really caught me because Ninoy Aquino do a bravery act to free Filipino citizen from the dictatorship. He did a selfless act that we Filipino citizens will benefit. He sacrificed himself to answer people's call for freedom. As for President Corazon, I know this is too much to handle because she lost she lost a husband just to achieve freedom's victory. So in this part of the speech, Ninoy really loved Philippines to do that kind of sacrificing himself just to achieve Filipino citizens freedom, because as of now we Filipinos achieve the freedom that part of Ninoy's sacrifice.
When former President of the Philippines, Corazon Aquino, gave her speech to the United States Congress, she called America to help her country from the dictatorial President Ferdinand Marcos. Corazon Aquino's speech was started by praising her husband, former Senator Ninoy Aquino. Her speech was to connect Ninoy Aquino's struggle and sacrifices with that of the whole nation, and later moved on how Filipino citizens elected her. One thing I'd say about our former President Corazon Aquino's speech in the United States Congress is that it was well done. Although she only focuses on the struggles and sacrifices of her husband and the Filipino people. As a student who is not present during those times, I cannot say that all of the issues that Corazon Aquino mentioned is true or correct, because it needs to be examined and analyzed first.